Hello, I'm Chandra Weigel, Associate State Director of Outreach and Advocacy for AARP Texas, and I am based in the Houston office. I am joined by Isabel Longoria, who is the Harris County Elections Administrator. She is here to discuss the upcoming election, which is Tuesday, March 1st. As Harris County Elections Administrator, she is responsible for overseeing the elections in our county. Isabel, welcome back, and please tell us a little bit about your role.
Thank you, Chandra. As some people might know, I used to work for AARP for several years, so it's always good to be back talking to our folks about voting. And just since AARP, I've gone on to be the elections administrator of Harris County, which means I'm in charge of the voter registration and now voting and election functions here in Harris County, just exactly as the title sounds.
Wonderful, thank you. So, we're going to start off with some really basic questions that you can help us cover. Please explain the difference between the primary and the general election.
A primary election is where essentially each political party, and the two major ones in Texas are Democrats and Republicans, are basically having runoffs to decide who their final candidate is going to be for the general election. So, for example, for the gubernatorial election, the governor's race, the Democratic and Republican parties each have multiple candidates that are running to be the final candidate for the Democrats and Republicans. When you get to the race in November, you'll be voting for those final candidates. There's usually a Democrat candidate, Republican candidate, and then usually an independent or some other parties. So primaries is within your party selecting who you want to be the final candidate to run against other parties in the general election.
Wonderful. Please tell us what's on the ballot for March 1st for Harris County.
It's going to be one of our longest ballots in Harris County history. And so it is the governor's race. It is different congressional races, all of your local judges or your civil courts and otherwise, which is what gets really into the dozens and dozens of hundreds, justice of the peace, state representatives, state senators, and everything in between.
So let's switch gears here and talk about what do people need to know about mail-in voting, who's eligible, what can and can't the local elections office do, what are the application deadlines, what are the new ID requirements, and is there a way that voters can track their mail-in ballot?
Well, bear with me, Chandra. That's a lot of information, but I want to be sure to cover it because you're absolutely right. The laws around mail ballot voting and elections in Texas have changed. In the fall, the Texas legislature passed Senate Bill 1, which was essentially an omnibus election bill here in Texas. One of the main focuses was mail ballots. Before, me and my office, as the election office, sent out mail ballot applications every year to people over 65 saying, we don't care what party you're from, we don't care how many times you voted or not voted, because you're 65, you are eligible to vote by mail, and we want you to have that information. In Texas, there is no online vote by mail application. You have to have a paper form that you fill out and send to us. You can either get that online at harrisvotes.com or from the Secretary of State and mail it back to us, or some organizations pass out mail ballot applications or have in the past. Because of the law change, I, as an election office, am not allowed to send you mail ballot applications anymore. It's only political parties, so those candidates who are running in the primary or the general, different campaigns who are sending you mail ballot applications. This has been leading to a little bit of confusion, right? Some folks saying, I thought you can't send mail ballot applications anymore. Again, I, as the government office, cannot, but a political campaign can send you a mail ballot application. If you decide to fill out one of those campaign applications and mail it back, they should have, or even if you download our form from online, you now also have to include, in addition to your name, your address as it appears on your voter registration card, your mailing address, those kind of typical things. You have to include at least one of your forms of ID, be it your Texas driver's license number or the last 4 digits of your social security number. You might have heard in the news recently, it's been leading to a lot of confusion. I know AARP does a lot of work about fraud watch and identity theft, saying don't include your sensitive information on things that go in the mail. Be cautious about where you include it. But unfortunately, we're in a bit of a catch-22 now. While you may not want to share that kind of sensitive information, you have to share it now with us as the election office in order to qualify to vote by mail. So we're encouraging, if you feel comfortable as a voter, to include your driver's license and social security number, those last four digits, so that when we look at your voter file, we have absolutely every number at our disposal to match your ID. For example, one of the most common issues right now is when you register to vote, you might have done so with your social security number, all those 450 years ago, but recently you submitted a mail ballot application with your driver's license number. The both numbers are true, both numbers are legal, and both numbers are correct. We are not allowed to match your driver's license number on your mail ballot application with your social security number on your voter reg kind of documents or forms. So we would have to send you a rejection letter saying, please return this with the number we have on file for you. I don't want folks to feel intimidated or confused. Please know you can call our office, 713-755-6965. That's our Harris County Elections Office. If you get any mail saying that your mail ballot application has been flagged for rejection, if you have any question on how to fill out the application, if you have any questions on how to return it to us, our office is here to help. But I like to say, when in doubt, fill it out. Put both forms of ID and your phone number. We're asking people to include their phone number. We don't share it with any other government office, so that if there's an issue, we can call you directly. We can say, heads up, you're getting a letter your way. Heads up, we need a corrected mail ballot application. Please know my office is also in a really tough spot. I, by law, cannot encourage you to vote. I cannot solicit your mail ballot application. And even speaking today, there are some questions that I can and can't answer because of those law changes. But if you call my office, we can answer any question you ask us.
Can you give that number again, Isabel?
Yeah, that number for our office is 713-755-6965. Again, by law, I can't encourage you to vote. There's only so much I'm allowed to share. But what I can say is if you call us and ask us questions, we can provide that feedback. But please, please, please call us for help.
Wonderful. So let's switch gears and talk about people who will be voting in person. So give us some of the early voting dates and locations, and how can we find that information?
Yeah. So early voting starts on February 14th. We're trying to get the word out. Bring a date and go vote. If you're like me, that's probably one of the most romantic dates you can have. So February 14th, Valentine's Day, is the start of early voting for the March primaries, and it'll go all the way through February 25th. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day except Sunday. We go noon to 7. And then that Thursday, February 24th, second to last day of voting, we'll have our voting locations open till 10 p.m. for folks who it's hard, after work, after your caregiving responsibilities, et cetera, to get out to the polls. So February 14th, come out there, vote in person. We'll have them at most of the major community centers around the county, over 90 voting locations, and we'll have those locations updated towards the end of this week. But if you voted there in the past, very likely that we'll have voting there for early voting in the future. And then March 1st, Tuesday, primary Tuesday in Texas, March 1st, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., we'll have over 375 locations around the county for voting.
Tell us how we can find out more about those locations.
harrisvotes.com, harrisvotes.org, whatever you prefer. We have the hours, the locations, and with 6 elections coming up this year, we actually have a calendar for all of those elections. So you can put those important dates in your diary now or your calendar now.
Wonderful. So we've had a few questions about the role of poll watchers. Can you give us a little bit more insight on what their role will be on election day and during the early vote hours that you provided?
So poll watchers are let's call them poll watchers, or representatives of political campaigns or any issue that is on the ballot, campaign or issue that is on the ballot. Their role by law is to hold us accountable. So they're there to make sure that the election judges, the election office are following the law in helping voters, correctly qualify voters, get you there voting and following all the laws. However, some poll watchers have, let's say, abused their authority in the past and are there then to police voters. I want everyone to know a poll watcher, not a single poll watcher, is ever allowed to talk to a voter. They cannot question you. They cannot question your intent. They are only there to raise issues to election workers and judges about what's happening at the poll. Um, that being said, a new change in the law is that poll watchers will now be required to complete a 1 hour online training with the Secretary of State to certify that they understand the election laws and what they are and are not allowed to do at the voting location. Poll watchers, they need to identify themselves. They need to have a name tag on. And again, if a poll watcher is harassing you, making you feel uncomfortable, or you believe is not following their duty or the law, please immediately notify the election judge on site. And they're the only ones now empowered to take care of poll watchers. My office is not allowed to do anything about poll watchers anymore. You'll have to contact the judge on site if a poll watcher is not respecting the law.
Thank you. So, as you know, we're still in the midst of COVID, and what are some precautions that we can expect to be in place for voting locations in Harris County?
We're following the same COVID protections that we have. We have, in between our election workers and voters, those plastic screens when you come check in. We have the finger cots, the famous finger cots. We're wiping down our machines between voters, and we're trying our best to find the biggest rooms we can so we can space out those voting machines. I can't require voters to wear masks, but we do provide masks for voters and our election workers to wear them as they see comfortable. But as we're encouraging folks, please come vote early. First day of early voting is always the busiest, as is the last day. But if you come in those middle days, it's usually slightly fewer voters, slightly fewer people, and again, those extended hours to 10 p.m. We're not allowed by law to do drive-through voting anymore. That was repealed with the new election law. 24-hour voting was repealed with the new election law, so we can only offer expanded voting to 10 p.m.
Thank you. So, where should people go to find their questions about voting in Harris County?
HarrisVotes.com is your one-stop shop. We have all sorts of FAQs about voting, but ultimately, if you ever have a question, call our voter line at 713-755-6965. We've got double the call center staff now who are there just to answer your questions and make sure that you're ready and prepared to go vote.
Thank you. So we've come to some closing thoughts. Can you provide us some closing thoughts as well as repeat some of those key information that you provided, and let us know for those of us who are on social media where we can find you as well?
Yeah, come early, come prepared. So come vote early starting February 14th. For those of you who do not feel safe going into a voting location, I'm not allowed to encourage you to vote by mail, but if you are eligible, it might be something you want to consider. But for those who vote by mail, for those who vote early, the earlier the better, so that we can process your forms and we can help you if there's any issues at the polls. Visit us at harrisvotes.com for information on the location and hours for all the upcoming elections. And when in doubt, call us at 713-755-6965 for any voter information. And if you're following along on Facebook or on Twitter, we are at Harris Votes. That's our tagline.
Administrator Longoria, thank you so much for joining us today. As you know, AARP is committed to helping our members and the broader public get information they need to know to go and vote. Thank you for helping us fulfill that role.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for watching. If you have any questions for our guests or future ideas for topics, please leave them in the comments below. You can visit the video tab on our AARP Texas Facebook page, where you will find this video along with a host of other videos. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day.